and welcome to Ralfs Foto-Bude. Some days ago Sony announced the new mirrorless camera, the Alpha 7 and Alpha 7R. They both have a full frame sensor, the first system cameras or mirrorless camera with a full frame sensor from Sony, and they call it Alpha. I think that's a little bit confusing because the mirrorless series of Sony usually called Next, Next 6, Next 7, and now they use the name Alpha for a mirrorless camera. I don't know why, but it is like it is. So this is the Alpha 7. You see here we have the Alpha 7 and the Alpha 7R, 7R, sorry, has the same size, same body. The only difference is the sensor. The 7 has a 24 megapixel full frame sensor and the 7R had a 36 megapixel full frame sensor, but the body and the functions are exactly the same. To show you how big the full frame sensor is compared to a Micro Four Thirds or an aps-c sensor, here I have the Olympus OMD EM1, the new Micro Four Thirds camera from Olympus, and here you can see very good the difference in the size of the sensor. So the full frame sensor is a lot bigger than the Micro Four Thirds sensor, but the cameras are almost have the same size, and they also have the same weight, thickness and height. So the Sony's Alpha 7 is in the size and weight almost exactly the same like the Olympus OMD. I can show you the difference between the full frame sensor and an aps-c sensor. We have here the Fujifilm XM1, XM1 and XE1, XE2. The new of the Fuji X series camera uses the aps-c sensor, and here you still see that the difference is quite big between aps-c and full frame sensor. The full frame sensor is much bigger than the aps-c sensor. We have here the 7, as I said before, that's the one with the 24 megapixel sensor. The camera comes with a display on the back side, and the display is still turnable. You can move it like this and move it down like this. Unfortunately, it's not a touch screen. I don't know why Sony didn't use a touch screen, because from their Xperia series mobile phones they know how to deal with the touch screen. And I personally use the Panasonic GX7 for some weeks now, and they have a touch screen, and I love to work with a touch screen. It's much easier to set the autofocus point with a touch screen. Even the work in the menus is much easier with a touch screen. So I would love to see a touch screen on the next series of the Sony cameras, Next series and Alpha series. I don't know why, because if you work a lot with the camera, you will love the touch screen. It gives you a little bit easier work, especially the autofocus field. It's much easier to position the autofocus field on the camera. I don't know why. I would love to see this camera with a touch screen. Next point, you have an electronic viewfinder, and the electronic viewfinder has a resolution over 2 million pixels, and it gives you a real clear and bright picture. I love to see this picture because it's almost like an optical viewfinder. It's not exactly the same, but the picture is real clear, it's bright, and it's extremely sharp. So the difference between an optical viewfinder and this electronic viewfinder is very, very few. So I love this one, and if you make turns with the camera, the picture is clear. There's no smearing or something like that. It's very good, and even in low light situations, the viewfinder gives you a not exactly without noise, but a very good picture with really no noise in the picture. So I love this one very much. I love to work with these electronic viewfinders because you have all the informations in the viewfinder. You also can use the menu in the electronic viewfinder. You can do everything with the electronic viewfinder. I love this one very much. And you have the 3D level meter. So this is a very, very good viewfinder. I think it's a little bit better than the Nex and the Alpha 99 viewfinder. I think it's a little bit brighter and a little bit clearer. So if you look on the top of the camera, we have the program dial, we have PASM, then we have two individual settings, 1 and 2. There you can set the camera to individual settings. Then you have the movie function, the panorama function, and the scene modes, auto, and you're back to program mode. You have the on-off switch and the shutter release. They have the aperture, the control dial to change the settings for the aperture and the shutter speed. Then you have on the front you have a small dial here where you can change some of the settings. You have a second dial here where you can change the settings. On top you have the C1, the custom 1 button. You have the custom 2 button. Here you have the custom 3 button, so you have 3 buttons which you can customize. Then you have the dial on the back. You have the function button, and the function button works like a quick menu button in the Olympus or in the Panasonic cameras. I'll show you later how this works. You have the replay button, and here you see you have a small dial where you can change between AF/MF and AEL. You see you can change it. It's a little bit confusing because you don't change between autofocus and manual focus. You have a button in the middle of the switch, and when you press the button, then you have a special function. But the function doesn't have to do anything with AF/MF and AEL. You can customize this function too. So I think it would be a little bit better like Olympus does it, because they have the same on their camera. They use this only 1 and 2, so you have 2 different settings for the button. I think, in my opinion, it's a little bit confusing, but you can deal with it if you know this. One thing, you don't have a built-in flash. That's exactly the same with the Olympus OMD. There's also no built-in flash, so you have to go to the flash shoe on the top of the camera, where you can put an external flash on the camera. On the side, I can show you here. On the side we have the connections for HDMI, the universal jack for USB. Then you have a headphone and a microphone in, so you can use a headphone and a microphone if you want to make movies. So let's have a short look into the menus. You start the camera here on top, just turn the dial on, and first of all I have to change the language. Just give me a second. So here we are. Here is the English language. The menu of the Alpha 7 looks like the menus of the Alpha series camera. You have on top, you have the 6 different main menu points, and if you go down, you have the individual settings of the different points. So I give you a quick view to some of the most important settings of the camera. You have the image size, 24 megapixel. You can go down to 6 megapixel, then you have the aspect ratio, but you only can choose between 3:2 and 16:9, so there's no 1:1 or anything else. You have the picture quality, RAW plus JPEG, and 3 different JPEG settings, extra fine, and standard, panorama size, panorama direction. Then you have the different file formats for video, AV, HD and MP4. And if you go to sorry, wrong direction. If you go to the video mode, AV-CHD, you can use 50p with 28 megabits per second, so that's the highest resolution and the fastest speed you can use in the full frame of full HD mode of the camera. Okay, then you have the drive mode where you have the continuous shooting, single shooting and speed priority continuous, where the autofocus won't work for each single picture but only for the first picture. Then you have the self-timer and bracketing, single bracketing and white balance bracketing. So there's different bracketing functions you can use. So just go back to the menu. Then you have the flash mode. As I said before, we have no built-in flash at the camera, flash compensation, red eye reduction, focus mode, and in the focus mode we have the single shot AF, the continuous AF, DMF. That's a combination from manual focus and autofocus. And then we have the manual focus. I show you later which options do you have in the manual focus for the magnification and for the peaking function. So you can work a little bit easier with the manual focus. Next point is the focus area, flexible spot, focus settings. Okay, so let's here have a look at the different focus areas. You have the flexible spot. Then we have the center focus area in the middle and the white zone where the camera uses almost the whole area for autofocus settings. Now go back to the menu, sorry. Then you have the focus settings where you can change in the different settings the focus point. So if you're, I can show you if you are in the flexible, because the flexible is the most important. I think that you use the flexible most often. So if you're in the flexible, you see you have in the middle you have this small yellow square and you can move this one to the point you want to go. You can change the size. You have 3 different sizes just by turning the dial, and you have here you can move the autofocus point down and up and move it on the screen. You have almost the whole screen you can use, but there's a little bit, so I can show you, there's a little bit of the screen you can't use. So this part on the left, on the top, on the right, this one is not usable for the autofocus area. Next point is, let's go back to the menu, sorry. Let's go back to you have the AF eliminator, exposure compensation. You also have the exposure compensation, showed you before, here on the top dial of the camera, so that's very easy to change the exposure. You can change the exposure steps. And then you have the ISO, and the ISO goes down from, show you here, from 50. ISO 50 is the lowest ISO value, and it goes up to 25,600 ISO, so that's here. So this is the ISO range you can use with the Alpha 7. Okay, so let's go back to the menu, and next point, metering mode. You can change between multimeter, center and spot metering. Then you have the white balance, and in the white balance you have the auto white balance, different presets for the different illuminations, and you can customize it, the Kelvin value from 2500 up to 10,000 Kelvin, and you also can make a custom setting here just by pressing the button, and the camera will make a white balance custom setting which you can use directly. I will change back to auto white balance because it's a little bit nicer if you have the auto white balance picture. The next one is DRO and HDR auto mode, creative styles. In the creative styles You have stuff like vivid, neutral, portrait, landscape, black and white. You can make different settings also in the individual creative style modes. You see, you can go here to the contrast, saturation, and sharpness. One thing the Alpha doesn't have, if you go to the black and white mode, just go here, we have the black and white mode. You can change the contrast and you can change the sharpness. But there's no built-in filter. Some of the cameras have in the black and white mode have a built-in filter like yellow, orange, red and green for the different scenes you take pictures. Like portrait, you use the green filter. Out in the landscape, blue sky, white clouds, you use the red, orange or yellow filter. The Alpha doesn't have filters, so in the black and white mode you only have the contrast and the sharpness, which you can change. So let's go back to standard. Just a second, give me a second. Here we are in the standard mode. Next point is the picture effect. Here you can go to the toy, pop, color, posterization, retro photo style, soft high, partial color. You have different settings in the partial color. If you here see a small arrow here, you see you can change from red to green to blue to yellow. Then you have the high contrast monochrome, soft focus, HDR painting, rich tone and miniature watercolor and illustration, and that's it. You can't combine both filters, so you can't combine the picture effect and the creative style. That's not possible. Only one thing is possible. Next point, focus magnifier, long exposure noise reduction, high ISO noise reduction, smile face detection. Then you have a soft skin effect. If you want to make the skin a little bit softer, you can put on the soft skin effect. Next point is the movie mode, steady shot. The camera doesn't have a built-in stabilizer. The stabilizer is in the lens. So if you have a lens like this, so that's a card size lens, 35 millimeters, 2.8, there's no stabilizer in the lens, so you don't have a stabilizer now because the camera doesn't have a built-in stabilizer like the Olympus. The Olympus has a built-in stabilizer, so with the Olympus you can use lenses without a stabilizer. Then you have the color space, sRGB or Adobe RGB. Next point, auto slow shutter, audio recording for videos, audio timing, wind noise reduction and memory. So these, which means memory, these are the two settings here on top, 1 and 2, which you can use here, memory, so the camera uses the settings you have saved here. So let's go up to the individual menu, and in the individual menu you have the manual focus assistant, the focus magnification time, grid lines, have different grid lines, audio level display, auto review, you can change how long you will see the pictures after you've taken the picture. Oops, sorry. Display button, here you can set which displays you want to see if you press the display button. You see we have the monitor, you have the graphic display, display all info, no display info, histogram level, the 3D level meter. So you can individualize the settings. Maximum you have 6 different settings while pressing the display button. So let's go back to the menu. Then you have the peaking level, peaking color. I'll show you later how this works in the manual focusing. You have face detection area, for the autofocus, the pre-AF, the zoom settings. You have the finder monitor, you can change automatically if you put the eye in front of the viewfinder, the electronic viewfinder. The camera changes from the monitor to the finder. then I cannot explain every point because there are so many points in this menu. You have the exposure compensation settings, you have the bracketing order where you can set the bracketing order. Then it goes to the face registration, aps-c size capture. So if you use lenses, aps-c lenses from the next series, you can take pictures but only in the aps-c size format, and the camera recognizes automatically if which lens you use, so it changes down to aps-c mode. Then you have, that's one of the interesting points, because you can customize the settings of the camera. So you can change the FN settings. Show you how this works. If you press the FN button, you see we have on the bottom of the monitor we have 2 lines with 6 different settings, and these points you can choose. So you can choose which settings you want to see here in this 12 points, and it's very easy to change. Just go with the dial on this point, and then you turn the dial here in front of the camera, and you see you go from AF to AFC, DMF or manual focus. If you go to the next point, like here, auto white balance, you go to the auto white balance and then just turn the dial in front of the camera, the front dial here, and you can change the settings. So that's very easy. It's like a quick menu, and the settings of the quick menu you make here. Function menu setting, you have the upper 6, and in the next step you have the lower 6, so you can choose which one you want to see in the quick menu. Then you have the custom settings. So these are the control wheels. This is the control wheel on the back side. That's what I said before, AAL button and AFFM button. A little bit confusing. So if you have the camera on this point, now you have the settings. I don't know which I gave. Manual focus and autofocus single if you press the button, and if you go down and press here, you have the focus area which you can change. But as I said before, you can individualize the custom key settings. Then you have the dial setup for the 2 dials. Then you have the movie button. You can say if the movie button only works in the movie mode or it works always. Let's go back to the menu, and then you have in the next step the dial wheel lock, where you can lock the wheels. So these are the custom, the individual settings of the camera. Yeah, then let's go have a quick view to the next menus. We have the Wi-Fi menu, then we have the application menu, we have the replay menu where you can make different settings for the slideshow, and where you can rotate, delete, and do something else. You can enlarge the image, you can protect the image, so you have lots of settings for the replay of the pictures. Last point is the setup menu, where you have the stuff like monitor brightness, volume settings, audio signals. You have different display qualities. You can change between PAL and NTSC. You have a cleaning mode, and so on and so on. The HDMI resolution. So you have the usual settings, time and so on in the setup menu. So one thing I showed you before is the autofocus mode, and one good thing is you can set the autofocus mode for the single point here on the middle of the dial. So it works like this. So if you go to the to the menu, and then you change the focus area to the flexible spot, and then if you press the button in the middle, you see there's the flexible spot, and you can change the position of the flexible spot, and you can change the position also by turning the dial, the front dial and the back dial. Then this works too if you have a look through the viewfinder. You see it's a little bit difficult to see, but you see here the you see in the middle there we have the autofocus point, and you can move the autofocus point also if you look through the viewfinder. So you look through the viewfinder and you have your fingers on the dial and you move the autofocus point to the exactly to the area you want to have it, and so you can change this very easy. Let's go to the manual focus, because in the manual focus I will show you how the peaking and the magnification works. So if you're in the manual focus, you see, now we're here in the manual focus, just turn the dial in front of the camera, the focus dial, and if you turn the dial, the camera goes immediately in the magnification. And you see here we are, I can show you, I go on this, you see here the magnification, you can move the area, so you see I can move the area which I want to see bigger just by, just by, you see here the yellow area, and I can move the yellow area to the point I want to see the magnification. And one thing, if I press the button on the back side, usually I have a 5.9 magnification, and if I press the button I go up to 11.7 magnification. So, and one thing you can see too is, let's go here, you can see how the peaking functions work. You see here, oops, here we are. Now you have the white lines around my hair, so now the picture is sharp at this point. So that's the peaking function, and it gives you real good help if you work with the manual focus on the camera. Yeah, these are the main functions. One thing I found out when I used the camera is if you're in the scene mode or in the auto mode, you can't make exposure correction. You see, we're in the scene mode. Now we have the portrait mode, and if I turn the dial here on top, nothing happens. You see, I can't make exposure correction. This is a pre-sales model with a not final firmware, so it might be changed when the final firmware is released. But in this model I can't make exposure correction in every scene mode. It's a little bit confusing, because if I want to make a landscape or a portrait, I have to change the exposure setting, because it's not always that the camera hits the exposure perfect. I don't know why this won't work. Even if you go to the FN, you see we have the exposure correction here, or exposure compensation, and if I press the button it's not available in this mode. I will have a look in the final firmware version to check if this is also not working in the final version. Yeah, one important thing you're waiting for is the picture quality. Yesterday I made some pictures. You can see them, by the way, on my Flickr account, Ralfs Foto-Bude. There are the ISO settings, or the ISO rows of the camera from 50 to 25,600. Talking about picture quality, the picture quality is very, very good. In low ISO you have a very detailed picture. There are really small details you can see, and if you go up to the maximum ISO of 25,600, there are still so many details and low noise. Yeah, I was wondering how Sony did this, because I never see this good quality on a system camera. and even if you compare it to full frames like the Nikon D610 or the Canon 6D, in my opinion the picture quality is on the same level or a little bit better than on the DSLRs. You can use the noise reduction if you go up to 25,600, and the noise reduction has almost the same details as without noise reduction. Usually if you pull on the noise reduction, you lose some details, you have less noise but also less details, but with the Alpha 7 you almost have exactly the same details with the noise reduction and less noise, so the picture is real good. So go to my Flickr account and you can compare the results in every ISO step, and you can make opinion by your own about the picture quality of the Sony. The Sony has on board a Wi-Fi module, so you can send the pictures from the camera to your smartphone. You have the remote control also. You can use the Sony apps, different Sony apps on the camera. You have almost everything you need on the camera. I would suggest that the camera is for an advanced photographer. You have the scene modes, but I think the best quality is if you work with PASM for the individual settings and for the individual autofocus settings or manual focus. You can use old lenses with adapters. Yeah, so Sony did a real good job on the Sony Alpha 7. I'm very interested to see the Alpha 7R, because with 36 megapixels, I think that the details in the low ISO area, the camera shows more details in the low ISO area than the 7, but I think the noise is going a little bit higher when you go up to the high ISO settings. It's like the difference between Sony NEX and Sony 7. The Sony NEX give you very good noise also in the high ISO settings. So the NEX 6 shows a real low noise in the high ISO settings, but the NEX 7 gives you a little bit more noise in the ISO settings, but much more details in the low ISO settings. Yeah, so this is my quick overview over the Sony Alpha 7, a real nice camera, not really expensive. You need new lenses. You cannot use the old NEX lenses because they are only for aps-c sensor. You need the new full frame lenses. You can use it with an adapter. If you have the Alpha 99, you can use the lenses with an adapter on the Alpha 7, but you need full frame lenses when you want the most picture quality of the Alpha 7. So go on my Flickr account, there you see the picture quality of the Alpha 7. On my internet page www.ralfsfoto-Bude.de there is a big review for the Alpha 7, but still only in German. Yeah, and come back on my YouTube channel in the next days. There's some more videos of very interesting cameras. The Nikon D610 is here, so I will give you a review for the 610, and there are coming much more interesting cameras. Thank you for watching me take some nice pictures. Until now I say bye bye and moin moin.